have GoGuardian active, and I just started recording the meet. So the wrapper class. The wrapper class allows you to automatically cast objects like integers and doubles into integer class and double class. What's cool is that when you cast an integer into the integer class, then you can use dot operators on it. When it's just a primitive, you can use like equals equals. Primitives use a lot less memory. There are some advantages to using primitives, but there are also some advantages to using the class version of integers and the class version of doubles. So we're going to just talk, it's not that hard, and do some examples of how you do that wrapping. I'm kind of thinking of, they use the term box, kind of think of that int, that 4, and the int a gets 4, and putting a box around the int and turning it into an integer. And it's really easy, really seamless, and very cool to do. The main way you tell the difference, or the little saying I like to use, is that the primitive integer is little I, and the capital I, INTG or EGER, that's the class. Little d and big D, that's the primitive versus the object. And it automatically, oops, casts things back and forth. That just went, I just hit the end button, went to the end of the slide deck. Here we go. The integer wrapper, I love saying that, takes it from that int to integer. So if you have a number, int num gets 5, and then you do all this work, integer, my integer equals new integer at num, it converts it. Now you don't have to do all this work. This is like the string thing. I remember when you make a string name gets name, there's a simpler format of it, but they want to show the more complicated form here. But that's what you're doing. You're basically taking this int, which is a primitive, and you're putting it, you're boxing it into a class so that you can use all the dot operators that come with that class, and we'll explore some of those. So that's basically what these slides are saying. Although the best way to do it is to see it, which we will in just a few moments. One really cool, useful dot operator for integer, for example, is getting the max value and the min value. Integer dot min value with that underscore value, that gives you, or sorry, max value, gets you the maximum integer you can get. The integer min value gives you the smallest one you can get. Oh, wow. Evan added something for me. He must have been one of my TAs. Well, not in the text, the double max and the double min also work the exact same way. But what I want to do is I want to try something brand new with all of you. And sorry to torture you all with something new. I know there's so many new things in 2020, but I want to try this new CS Awesome textbook. I've been getting a lot of feedback, and I've been just observing a lot of people struggling with this Java stuff. It happens every year. This isn't unique to this year, but I found this resource that other teachers are using. Well, I shouldn't say I found it. Other teachers have been using this resource for their online classes, and they found it to be really helpful. And when I explored it last night, I was like, this might be really helpful. So what I'm forcing open on your, if you have GoGuardian, I also put the link into our Meet chat, is an activity from CS Awesome. And the activity from CS Awesome that I want you to look, when you get to that page, it will look like this. And what I'm going to challenge you to do is scroll and be aware that this page exists, first of all. And I'm going to be asking your opinion of it. and scroll to this part that says 2.8.1 Programming Challenge Debugging. So scroll on down to that. And when you're down in that 2-8-1, and it might take you a little bit to get there, sorry. I want you to notice that this textbook is set up really cool, first of all. It uses the current CS curriculum, AP CSA curriculum, which I love. I like the order they teach things in. I think it's just really well laid out. The old Java class was not nearly as well laid out and more left up to individual teachers to figure it out on their own. This order is brilliant in my mind. This text also lets you run code right within the textbook, which I just think is super cool. So I'm going to run this code by clicking on the run button, and it says there were several errors. Well, it's a debugging activity. So what that gives me a chance to do is talk about the different syntax that is necessary for min and max values. So it's kind of interesting because you are going to get the chance to fix that. So there are tons of mistakes. It's almost like every line they write is a mistake, but we're going to fix them together. So first thing I want to point out is notice they use the word integer here. On line 5, we use capital I. So feel free to fix that capital I on line 5. See it? Isn't that cool? We'll run it and see if that fixes some of our problems. Oh, hey, we're down to 4 errors. This one, we're going to go and fix int value is actually like that. double value is like that. Ooh. And see how I'm just fixing the errors. Now I'm going to leave my screen up because I know you're not completely familiar with all of this yet, which is fine. And I want not the name of the class, but like that, min value, oops, underscore. Wow, I am struggling with my typing today. Do as I say, not as I do. Ah, I can't believe I missed that. Uh-oh, where did I mix up min value? Oh, I didn't mess it. I did mess it up. It's like this. I did mess it up. What? I-N-T-E-G-E-R, 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 min value. Oh, man. Where am I messing it up? Integer, min value. Oh, there is no, I did mess it up. Mr. Rohde, gosh, this is a good exercise for me. Uh-oh, I still have something wrong. It wants 2 and 5.0. Ugh. Oh my gosh, that took me forever to solve. All right, now I didn't talk about it much, but I put the correct answer in the slide deck, and I'm going to show the slide deck. And then feel free to click run. And when you finally get the answer right, when you get it right, and notice how long it took me to get it right, put in the smiley face. It took me that long to get it right. And I'm not a terrible coder, and it still took me a long time, and I'm not new to it. So clean up all those errors. I am on my screen presenting the correct answer. Nice work. Wow, some of you got it fast. I struggled. The struggle was real. All those details of syntax. As you're struggling through this and thinking, I'll never memorize all this, don't worry. That min value and max value code are provided on your perforated sheet that you get to use in class. Pretty cool. Nice work, folks, finding all the details of that syntax. All right, great job, folks. You did great. I want to talk to you next. I want to, we're going to skip this code together. This was before I found that activity. We were going to do this in Replit. That Replit is loaded if you want to mess with it on your own. But I feel like we just kind of did that on the in the activity we just did. What's really cool is that, or what's really interesting is that when you do that biggest number, if you were to add 1 to it, you would overflow and it would reset. And if you were to subtract 1 to the smallest number, or I like to say coldest and biggest, just because that's the way we used to talk about it when you were in elementary school, to connect the concept to like things you understood and could actually feel, that would be the underflow error. And just to kind of remind you of overflow and underflow, I just want to show you this thing. Remember when we used this in at code.org when you were in AP CSP, and we talked about numbers overflowing and what would happen when you ran out of spaces and how it would just keep going? Well, this is the classic example of how that works, except now, of course, it's more complicated in Java, because what we do is we actually overflow to the negative number when we're super huge positive, 2,140,000,000 whatever million, and then we overflow to negative 2 billion. And when we underflow, we keep going backwards and smaller, 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 and then wrap around, we go up to the biggest number. So that's what caused, I don't know if any of you ever heard of the Mario, Nintendo Mario bug, where if you would get to a certain point at the end of the game, or I'm sorry, yeah, at the end of the game, it would wrap to this -1 world. It just had to do with overflow errors in the way bits work, and it was kind of a classic bug that now is like in lore because the score overflowed and then went, or the levels overflowed and then went to negative numbers. So instead of going 0 through 255, it went from 0 to 127 and then overflowed to -128, which was just weird stuff, but that's the way it worked. And that caused that weird error that was kind of classic. Maybe some of you have heard about it. But overflow and underflow, that's what those terms are all about. Another term I want to introduce to you is AutoBoxing. AutoBoxing made your life easier. If you were taking this class 6, 7 years ago, you would have to go through this big conversion process to get the int into the proper format. Nowadays, all you have to do is tell it what you want it to do, and it does it. For example, if you have an integer, capital I, that gets 2, and you have a double, capital D gets 3.5, and then you say int primitive life gets 42, and then I change it to int, and then I want to turn that meaning of into integer type, getting life, it will automatically auto-box that and convert it. And in the old days, you had to cast it and do all kinds of stuff and go new integer and blah, 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 kind of like I showed you at the beginning of class. You don't have to do any of that anymore because of auto-boxing. So it does all of that stuff for you automatically. It's new. It's the way it works now. Unboxing is the same process, going from big I integer to little I integer. And it's so easy. It just goes back and forth, back and forth. It's really cool. So you can auto-box and unbox. Now I have another challenge for you. On that same page, there are a bunch of vocabulary terms. And I'm going to share this tab and show you where they are. If you scroll up, there is an activity, automatic conversion from the wrapper object to its primitive type. So from the wrapper object back to primitive is unboxing. So drag the definition to the term, boom. You see how you do that? And automatic conversion from primitive to the wrapper. Integer is the wrapper class. Int is the primitive. I'm overflowing. I'm underflowing. I'm checking my answer. What? Oops, I thought I did it that way. I said it the right way. I did it the wrong way. Underflow, overflow. Phew. See if you can get it right. When you have it right, when you did all your vocabulary terms right, feel free to give me a smile. It's in the middle of the page. I have the answer there if you need it. Nicely done, folks. Nicely done. Matching the, we're matching the vocabulary on. It's called CS Awesome. The page. I can put the page back in case people are struggling. It might be why some people are confused. Here's that page. It's in the middle of the page. All right, this lesson is kind of short, and the next lesson is also kind of short. So what I wanted to do is just add some extra stuff into the lesson and talk about how to do better on multiple choice and how to do better on free response questions. And not that this stuff isn't important and it's interesting, but it's not as critical as like string theory is a really big deal. So if we have some leftover time, I really want you to work on string theory and get those string theory activities done. I'm not going to give you homework tonight. You don't have a homework assignment tonight or tomorrow night. Well, tomorrow night you'll be having your homework to get ready for the big exam on Monday and Tuesday. But you really won't have like a homework assignment or anything new that needs to be turned in. The methods work needs to be turned in, and the string theory need to be turned in by Friday. But again, not giving you more for that. But I do want to talk about some stuff. So I'm going to beg for your attention on a topic I think can help you not only in Java, but in any field in which you need to take multiple choice tests. I want to share with you a little bit about me and how I became a computer science teacher at Baraboo High School and computer science in general. For a million years, okay, 25, 26 years, I was a special education teacher, and I worked with kids with disabilities, specializing in kids with behavioral disabilities. And my wife and I were also both foster parents, and we were really into helping kids who were struggling. And that's what I did for a really long time. But as I got older and less cool and lost my hair and just became less, I guess, older, I decided it was time for me to switch what I do and stop working with kids who told me off all day, every day. So I switched to computer science, and Obama had passed got some funding for creating 10,000 new computer science teachers. And I was in a grant program, and I got a free education at Marquette University, a free computer science minor from Whitewater, free training in how to be a computer science teacher at Marquette. And they even paid me for certain parts of the training, which was really cool. So I got paid to change professions. And one of the things we had to go through to prove our worthiness, in addition to like getting a minor, was 21 credits for me. We also had to take a test called the Praxis test, which was a multiple choice test. I am a bit arrogant, as many of you know, because you've had me for multiple classes, and I think I know everything, right? So I went blind into this multiple choice test right away. And I paid my $90. It got reimbursed through the grant, and I could take the test as many times as I want, and they'd keep paying me. And so, I mean, paying for the test. So I went to take the test thinking I'm going to ace this right through. I took the test, and I missed it by like 2 points, maybe even 1 point. It was like I barely missed it. As I was taking the test, though, I had the feeling. As I was taking the test, I'm like, this test is not what I expected. I hadn't even heard of recursion. I mean, there were all kinds of things on that test I knew nothing about. But I went out to the car after the test, and I puked out, not literally, but puked out physically. I had a notebook ready in the car, and I just wrote down everything that I didn't understand or didn't get right, so I'd be ready for the next test. Then I took the test again, and let's just say I really, really aced it. But I had taken some coursework. I had studied right for the test. I did that second time I took it, bam, I aced it. Then they looked, because so many people were becoming computer science teachers, they looked to rewrite the test. And some of the people who were rewriting the tests were friends of mine. And I got hired by Praxis to help rewrite the test. It didn't hurt that I got a really good score. It didn't hurt that I knew some of the people who were on the committees writing these things. But doing that gave me powerful insight into how multiple choice questions are written by these testing companies. I had no idea it was such a process to write multiple choice questions. For your AP exam, your multiple choice questions are actually written by people who get paid per question they write that's successful. What's a successful question, you ask? A successful multiple choice question is a question that is able to differentiate between someone who knows a topic and someone who doesn't know a topic. So what they did is they gave the questions I would write on a standard. They'd have a standard that, for example, for this question, the standard would be understands the difference between print and print line. That would be the standard. And your job as a test writer would be to write a question that would differentiate between people who understood it and people who didn't. So what they did is they found experts at teaching computer science and they gave them the test. Then they found people who did not teach computer science but were teachers. They gave them the test and they compared the two groups. And if your question was answered correctly by the computer science teachers and incorrectly by the people who were not computer science teachers, the higher that difference was, the better your question was at differentiating between experts and non-experts. And if my question was selected, I got paid. And I forget the amounts, but it was something like if my question, they had two levels. One level was your question was good enough to be published on the test and you got $25. The other level was that it was good enough to be it was good enough to be used in the practice tests that they give away and put manuals and they sell study guides and stuff. Those are official questions. And if it was good enough for that, it was like $10. So I made some money writing test questions for that praxis test. There are people who are getting paid money to write questions for your AP test. And I guarantee they're using the same philosophy. They're testing a bunch of high school students who are good at Java, and they're testing a bunch of high school students who are in AP environmental science or a different course not taking Java, and they see how good the question is at discriminating between the two. That being said, that means you have to be an expert at analyzing the questions. And not only this, but on your ACT tests, on your other AP tests, on certification tests you may take in the future. There's a Java certification test that a lot of professionals take. There's all kinds of multiple choice tests you're going to take. And when you see a question like this, what I'm going to beg you to do is not solve it like a typical high school student, but start solving it like a test-taking expert. Let me explain the difference. A test-taking expert will look at this question and solve it first. So considering the following code statement, what is the result? Many of you will go down and look and say which one looks right. Instead, what I challenge you to do is I challenge you to solve the problem without looking at the solutions for a problem like this and have a right answer, then look and see what the test question says and see if your answer is there. That is a big difference. Look at this problem one. Solve it on your own, on your piece of paper. Just solve it by yourself before you look at the answers and which one is right. Now, hopefully what you did is you wrote down the answers. You came up with the way that you look through the answers, and I'm going to look at it here, and I'm going to say W is on a separate line, X is on a separate line, Y is on a separate line, but Z is on the same line. Notice how evil the distractors are. None of the distractors are what I would call stupid. Sometimes there is a stupid one, but not on this one. Also notice APCSA doesn't have 4 answers like CSP, it has 5. So your odds of getting a correct answer are now 1 in 5. Also, the additional distractor makes it harder to work backwards, which is why they do that on the APCSP test, is they only give you 4 to make it a little easier for new computer science students. So by the way, the correct answer for this one is D. At least that's what I got. I hope I'm right. However, that solve it first does not always work. Some questions do not lend themselves to solve it first, like this question that you had on your multiple choice exam. This one, what you want to do is you want to look at 1, 2, and 3 and solve it before you look at the answers. And what they want what they're counting on is high school students being in a hurry, and as soon as they find a correct answer, being done. So what I beg you to do with a problem like this is solve each one. Solve Roman numeral 1, solve Roman numeral 2, solve Roman numeral 3, and see which one is right. Go ahead and do that right now. Solve Roman numeral 1, solve Roman numeral 2, solve Roman numeral 3, and just solve them on your paper. I'm going to do the same. Oh, there's missing part of the problem. My apologies. This problem isn't complete. Oh, no, it is complete. Sorry, system.out. My bad. I missed something. Pretend I didn't say that. I see what I'm doing now. Sorry. Then you have to do the system out, which I wasn't doing. This was a harder one than I thought. If you're brave, could you put into the chat window whether you think the answer is, what the answer is, A through E? What do you think? Thanks for the interaction. I know it's tough in 2020. I miss the old ways. But a lot of you are interacting, and I really, really appreciate it. I know it's risky in a chat window. By the way, the only one that causes that divide by 0 error, where you're dividing by 0, is number 2, and that would be the answer of B. This one is 10 minus 20. The 10 minus the 20 would be a negative 10, and the 20 minus 10 would be a positive 10, and that wouldn't cause an error, but it would be awkward. -1 would be the result of top divided by bottom, I believe. Now we have several more examples, but just because I'm pretty sure you get the idea. Oh, this one's a class one. Let's skip the modulus one, and let's do just a class one so that we can get a little bit of class practice. This might be an example of a type of problem you might see on the exam that you're taking on Monday, the multiple choice one. Notice how it sets up a class student, which is a class we've set up for fun a couple of times now. Which of those would compile without an error? When you get that, when you have that one right, would you mind putting it into the chat window? Compile without error. All right, I just briefly want to go over the answers. Number one would actually work. Student A gets a new student without parameters. Number two, student B gets new student Juan with 15. It's an int, and it takes in an int. That works. Number three, student C gets new student Juan with the 15 in parentheses, which is in quotation marks, which is a string. So that one doesn't work. So 1 and 2 work. So the answer is 1 and 2, which is C. Again, notice my process, which is just as important as the answer. The answer was important too. But notice that I did the process of solving it rather than looking at the distractors and work it the other way when you're doing an AP test and write out answers. When I was solving those ones that had some arithmetic, I wrote it out. On the actual exam that you take, probably depending on 2020 and what happens, I think by May we'll be back in school. I think the vaccine will be pretty widely distributed, I hope, by then, and we'll be back. And you're going to get a test booklet, and you can write in that test booklet all you want. The only thing the AP even keeps is your answer sheet, which is going to be separate, where you're going to fill in the bubbles. The test booklet, they shred. They do a secure shred of your test booklet, so you could write all over it, just like you can write all over your notebook now. All right, I want to wrap today with a fun GimKit. So I'm going to ask everyone to please go to gimkit.com/live. I'll put that in the chat window too, and ask you all to please enter the game code mentioned there. Oh, that didn't show up as a hyperlink. I hope it works. And join the GimKit just for fun. This is going to be the last thing we do today, and then I'll give you a little bit of time to work.
Mr. Rohde?
Yes.
My keyboard has completely stopped working.
Oh my gosh. Not that I'm kicking you out of the meet, Charlie, but would you mind turning off your computer, turning it back on, and rejoining the meet and see if that fixes it?
Yeah, I will. All right.
Sorry, Charlie. Got 12 players. We have 20 students. So we're short quite a few people. Oh, some people are still struggling to get in. I can see your via Go Guardian. I see some of your, it's just slow. Sorry, didn't mean to be critical. What is cool, I did set the setting so that you can join later. Everyone I see via Go Guardian, oh, except Jenna. I don't know if she's having trouble getting there. Let me see here. Oh, there it goes. Okay, it was just slow. Sorry. I'm going to stop recording too. I don't think we need to have our